Brooke stood in front of her bathroom mirror knowing exactly how the night was going to end. In less than an hour, she would walk into her mother's house with another man beside her. And by the end of the evening, she would probably be walking out alone again. It had happened too many times to pretend otherwise. 8 years, 5 serious relationships, every single one ending the same way. Not because Brooke was difficult, not because she didn't try, because her mother always found a way inside the relationship before it had time to become strong enough to survive her. Brooke tightened her grip on the sink. Maybe this time would be different, but she didn't really believe that anymore. Vivian was 54 and still lived like the world was a spotlight that belonged to her. In her 20s, she had been a regional pageant winner. Not famous enough to be remembered by the world, but famous enough to never forget how it felt. Later, she modeled for department store catalogs across the Southeast. Nothing glamorous, but enough validation to build a lifelong addiction to attention. And she never really left that stage. 2 hours every morning on hair and makeup, Pilates 4 times a week, designer dresses that cost more than Brooke's monthly rent. Vivian didn't just want to look young. She needed to feel chosen. And Brooke had slowly realized something painful. Her mother didn't just want admiration. She wanted it from the same men Brooke loved. It started when Brooke was 18. Her first boyfriend had been a nervous freshman from UNC Charlotte. Sweet, awkward, the kind of boy who practiced what he would say before meeting parents. He barely survived dessert. Vivian laughed too much at his jokes, touched his shoulder when she spoke, asked questions that felt too personal for someone else's mother. By the time Brooke walked him to his car, he looked confused. He never called again. The next boyfriend lasted 2 months. That one ended after Vivian started sending helpful advice texts about Brooke's stress levels and asking him to meet for coffee so she could understand how serious he was. He disappeared without explanation. Then another. Then another. Each one falling into the same pattern. At first, Brooke thought it was coincidence, then bad luck. Then maybe something was wrong with her. It took years before she accepted the truth. This wasn't random. This was a pattern. Ryan was supposed to be different. Ryan was steady in a way the others hadn't been. A middle school teacher at Oak Ridge Elementary. Calm voice, patient eyes. The kind of man who listened fully before speaking. He wasn't flashy, and Brooke loved that about him. They dated 5 months before she risked introducing him. Sunday dinner in Charlotte. The moment Vivian opened the door, Brooke felt that familiar knot in her stomach. She recognized the look instantly. That quick flash of evaluation, not motherly curiosity. Competition. Vivian hugged Ryan just slightly too long, told him he was even more handsome than she expected, laughed at everything he said like he was the most fascinating man alive. Brooke tried to ignore it. She always tried. But then she made the mistake of leaving them alone for 2 minutes while she grabbed dessert from the kitchen. From the hallway, she heard Vivian's voice change. Lower, warmer, private. That voice. The one Brooke had heard too many times. Vivian was telling Ryan Brooke never brought men home, that she had started to worry her daughter might never find someone good enough. Brooke froze with the pie in her hands. Something inside her sank. She already knew what came next. After Ryan left, Vivian delivered phase 2 of the routine. Perfect timing, perfect tone. He seems nice, she said casually. Then the knife. But maybe a little simple for you. A teacher is respectable, of course, but you could probably do better. Brooke didn't argue. She was too tired to argue. 2 weeks later, Ryan showed her his phone. Vivian had been texting him every few days. Friendly messages, questions about his weekend, invitations to coffee to talk about how Brooke was really doing. Photos from Pilates, workout selfies, comments about staying young. Ryan looked uncomfortable while Brooke scrolled. Each message felt like something tightening around her chest. 3 days later, he ended things. He wasn't cruel. That almost made it worse. He said he cared about her, said she deserved peace. But he couldn't compete with whatever was happening between her and her mother. He said it felt wrong. He said it felt like being watched. He said he didn't know where the boundaries were supposed to be. Brooke didn't try to convince him to stay. She already knew. That night, she cried harder than she had in years. Not just for Ryan, for all of them. For every relationship that never even got a fair chance to exist. And for the first time, something else started forming under the grief. Not sadness, not anger, something colder. Something that felt like the beginning of a decision. Brooke didn't come up with the plan in a moment of confidence. It came at 2 a.m, on her kitchen floor. Mascara dried stiff on her cheeks, phone in her hand, Ryan's last message still open. She wasn't crying anymore. That part had passed. What replaced it felt quieter, colder. For the first time, she wasn't asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" She was asking, "What would happen if I stopped playing defense?" The thought scared her, because she wasn't thinking about protecting her next relationship. She was thinking about exposing her mother. And once you cross that line, you can't pretend innocence anymore. She sat there for a long time before she admitted the truth to herself. No normal boyfriend would survive Vivian. Kind men tried to avoid conflict. Confident men underestimated her. Patient men got worn down. To survive Vivian, someone would need 3 things: emotional distance, immunity to flattery, and absolutely nothing to lose. That was when she thought of Daniel Vega. She hadn't spoken to him in almost 3 years, but some people stay filed in your mind under one specific word. Daniel was filed under unshakable. They had met at UNC Charlotte. Daniel studied theater and film and moved through life like he understood something most people didn't. He could read a room in seconds. Professors forgave him for late work because he knew exactly how to apologize. Classmates trusted him because he never seemed desperate for approval. And Daniel had one quality Brooke had always admired. He hated manipulation. Not casually, personally. He had grown up with it, which was probably why he saw it faster than anyone else. Brooke opened his profile. She hesitated longer than she expected. His life looked complete. Photos with Kevin, trips, friends, confidence. She almost didn't send the message, because asking him meant admitting something humiliating. That at 27 years old, she still couldn't protect her own relationships from her mother. She started typing, deleted it, typed again, deleted again. Finally, she just told the truth. Everything, the pattern, the sabotage, Ryan, the messages, the fear that she might never be able to build a life while Vivian remained this involved. She ended with, "I know this is a strange thing to ask. You can say no." Daniel answered in 43 minutes. Not with a joke, not with surprise. With one sentence. "How far are you willing to go?" Brooke stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered before she answered, "Far enough that it stops." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. Then, "Okay, then we need rules." They met the following Saturday at a diner on East Boulevard. Daniel didn't treat it like a favor. He treated it like preparation. He asked questions Brooke wasn't expecting. How quickly does she attach? Does she escalate emotionally or physically first? Does she prefer admiration or control? Has she ever been publicly embarrassed? Brooke realized something uncomfortable. Daniel wasn't just agreeing to help. He was profiling Vivian. At one point, he leaned back and said something that made Brooke uneasy. "Your mother doesn't just want attention. She wants victory." Brooke felt something tighten in her chest, because she knew he was right. They built the plan slowly. Not dramatic, not reckless, precise. Backstory first. They had reconnected through mutual friends. 3 months of dating, serious but not rushed. Daniel successful enough to impress Vivian, confident enough not to chase her approval. Then Daniel added something Brooke hadn't considered. "He can't just resist her," Daniel said. "He has to make her think she almost succeeded." Brooke frowned. Daniel explained, "If she just fails, she blames you. If she almost wins and still loses, she has to face herself." Brooke didn't like how calculated that sounded. Daniel noticed. "Last chance to stop," he said gently. She shook her head. "I already lost too much." 2 weeks later, they executed the plan. Vivian opened the door already dressed to win. New dress, perfect hair, makeup done like she expected competition. Daniel noticed everything instantly. Brooke could see it in the small tightening of his expression. Vivian extended her hand like she was greeting someone important. Daniel didn't just shake it. He paused, just long enough to make her feel seen, then smiled. That dangerous actor smile, and said, "Brooke never mentioned where she got her looks from." It was subtle, but Brooke saw the exact second Vivian took the bait. The entire evening became a performance. Daniel gave Vivian attention, but never more than he gave Brooke. Compliments, but always redirected. Interest, but always controlled. When Vivian tried to isolate him in conversation, Daniel gently pulled Brooke back in. When Vivian tested flirtation, Daniel answered with respect. Never rejection, never invitation, just out of reach. By the end of dinner, Vivian was glowing. Not because she had won, because she thought she was about to. When they left, Vivian hugged Daniel just slightly longer than appropriate. Brooke felt the old dread rising. But Daniel only squeezed Brooke's hand once in silent reassurance. The messages started 3 days later, exactly when Daniel predicted. Vivian started small. Articles, questions, check-ins. Daniel showed Brooke everything. Every response was deliberate, friendly, warm, unavailable. Weeks passed. Vivian escalated, dropping by unexpectedly, dressing younger, laughing harder, testing boundaries. Daniel never crossed one, but he never shut the door either. He let her believe proximity meant possibility. 6 weeks in, the call came. Brooke knew something was wrong the second she heard Vivian crying. Not sad crying, emotional theater crying. Vivian said she thought she was falling in love. Brooke closed her eyes. The words felt inevitable. Vivian said Daniel understood her, that he saw her, that she believed he might feel something too. Then she said the sentence that made Brooke's blood run cold. Maybe it's time we all told the truth. After the call ended, Brooke sat in silence. Her hands were shaking, not from surprise, from realization. Her mother hadn't just crossed a boundary. She had chosen the fantasy over her daughter. Brooke called Daniel. He listened quietly, then exhaled slowly. Not surprised, not shocked, focused. "This isn't the problem," he said. "This is the opening." Brooke didn't answer. Daniel continued. "She isn't hiding it anymore. Which means she's already convinced herself she's justified." A pause. Then, "That means she's ready." Brooke whispered, "Ready for what?" Daniel's voice became very calm. "Ready to see what this actually looks like." There was a long silence. Then he said something that made Brooke realize there was no going back. "Let's end the story she's been telling herself." Brooke expected panic when she called Daniel. Instead, she got silence. Not confused silence, measured silence. The kind of quiet that comes when someone is mentally rearranging pieces on a board. She repeated everything Vivian had said. The crying, the confession, the suggestion they should all be honest. When she finished, Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he said something unexpected. "She's not hiding anymore." Brooke didn't understand. Daniel continued. "That means she already believes she's justified." That sentence sat heavy in the air. Brooke sank into her couch. "I think I made this worse." Daniel answered immediately. "No." A pause. "You just stopped protecting her from consequences." That landed harder than anything else he had said. Then Daniel said quietly, "This is the moment we were waiting for." Brooke's stomach tightened, waiting. He had known this would come. "Saturday," he said. "Your apartment. Let her believe she's walking into a conversation she can win." Brooke swallowed. "And then?" Daniel's voice became very calm. "Then we let her talk." Saturday felt like a day moving toward impact. Brooke cleaned her apartment twice, then rearranged things, then moved them back. She wasn't nervous about the confrontation. She was nervous about what it might permanently break. Daniel arrived an hour early, not theatrical, not joking, focused. He adjusted lighting slightly, moved one chair 6 inches, asked where Vivian would naturally sit. Brooke noticed something. He wasn't preparing for a conversation. He was staging a reveal. "You okay?" he asked. She hesitated. "I don't know if I want to hurt her." Daniel answered softly, "You're not doing this to hurt her." A beat. "You're doing this to stop being hurt." That distinction mattered. At 7:02, the doorbell rang. Vivian entered like she was attending something important. Black fitted dress, perfect makeup, hair flawless, champagne in hand. She looked nervous, but not afraid. Hopeful. That was worse. Daniel greeted her warmly, hugged her, just long enough, told her she looked stunning. Vivian's entire posture changed. Brooke saw it happen. The belief, the possibility. They sat. Vivian chose the armchair across from them. Daniel and Brooke together on the couch, an accidental triangle. Or maybe not accidental. Vivian kept glancing between them, trying to read territory, trying to sense advantage. Silence stretched. Then Vivian spoke first. "I think we all know why we're here." Daniel nodded slowly. "I respect your honesty." Vivian visibly relaxed. "I was afraid you might think badly of me." Daniel shook his head gently. "I think honesty takes courage." That line hit exactly how he intended. Vivian leaned forward, hope opening fully now. Daniel continued carefully. "Very few people are brave enough to admit what they want." Vivian almost smiled. Brooke felt her pulse in her throat. Daniel kept going. "You are intelligent." Vivian nodded slightly. "You are confident." Her breathing changed. "You are incredibly attractive." Her eyes locked on his. "And any man would feel lucky to be wanted by you." Vivian looked like she had already won. Then Daniel did something subtle. He let the silence sit, just long enough. Then he asked, "Can I ask you something honest?" Vivian said yes immediately. "If I had said yes to you," a pause, "would you have told Brooke?" The question hit like a crack in glass. Vivian froze, just for half a second. Too long. Daniel didn't move. Or would this have been our secret? That was the psychological twist, because now she had to choose, lie or reveal herself. Vivian tried to recover. "I would never hurt my daughter." Daniel didn't react, just watched. She added quickly, "I just felt something unexpected." Daniel nodded slowly, then gently said, "But you pursued it." Vivian didn't answer. Daniel continued softly, "You texted me." Silence. "You invited me out." Silence. "You told me Brooke didn't deserve someone like me." Brooke felt her chest tighten. She hadn't known that part. Vivian's face changed. Now fear was entering. Daniel's voice stayed kind, never aggressive, which somehow made it worse. "You weren't confused. You were competing." That word landed like a verdict. Vivian's face hardened. Then Daniel reached over, took Brooke's hand, and everything changed. His voice became very clear. "I need to be honest too." Vivian leaned forward again, hope refusing to die. Daniel said gently, "I'm completely in love." Vivian smiled. Then he finished, "With Brooke." The air seemed to disappear from the room. Before Vivian could react, he added, "And I was never an option." A beat. Then calmly, "I'm gay." Silence. Total. Vivian's brain visibly trying to reorganize reality. Daniel continued gently, "I have a partner. Kevin. 4 years. Very happy." Each sentence removed another piece of her illusion. Then the final truth. "Brooke asked for help because she was tired of losing relationships to you." Vivian looked at Brooke. Not hurt, not sad, exposed, humiliation turning to rage. "This is sick," she whispered. Daniel didn't react. "This is cruel." Daniel stayed calm. Then he asked the question that ended everything. "Do you really believe it's normal to compete with your daughter for her partners?" Vivian stood up instantly. Fight response. The champagne glass was in her hand before Brooke realized what was happening. It flew past Brooke's head, exploded against the bookshelf. Glass, wine, paperbacks collapsing. Vivian was shaking now, not from sadness, from loss of control. "You humiliated me." Her voice broke. "You set me up." Daniel answered quietly, "No." A pause. "You walked in yourself." That line broke something. Vivian grabbed her purse. "You'll regret this." Classic final defense. "I never want to see either of you again." Door slam, frames shaking, dog barking somewhere down the hall. Silence returned like pressure. Brooke didn't move. Daniel didn't speak. 30 seconds passed. Then Daniel exhaled slowly. That went about as expected. Brooke stared at the champagne dripping down her books. Her voice was distant. "What does worse look like?" Daniel answered honestly. If she had convinced herself she was the victim. Brooke didn't answer, because they both knew that part might still be coming. For 32 days, Vivian disappeared. No calls, no messages, no surprise visits with groceries nobody asked for, no comments on Brooke's social media. Nothing. At first it felt like peace. Real peace. The kind Brooke had imagined for years but never actually experienced. She slept through the night, stopped checking her phone when it buzzed, stopped bracing herself for emotional impact every time Vivian's name appeared on her screen. For a few dangerous weeks, she allowed herself to believe something impossible. Maybe exposure had worked. Maybe shame had worked. Maybe Vivian had finally seen herself. That illusion lasted until Aunt Diane called. Brooke knew from the first 3 seconds something was wrong. People don't start conversations with, "Are you okay?" unless they already know the answer might be no. Diane spoke carefully, like someone walking across thin ice. "Your mother has been staying with me." Brooke felt her stomach drop. Since that night. A pause. Then the sentence that changed everything. "She's been telling people what happened. Not telling. Managing, positioning, rewriting." Diane explained slowly. Vivian had contacted relatives first, then family friends, then people Brooke worked with. Not aggressively, carefully. One conversation at a time. Always emotional, always controlled, always just believable enough. According to Vivian's version, Brooke had staged an elaborate humiliation because she was jealous of her mother's beauty. Daniel wasn't a friend. He was a weapon. Vivian was the victim of a cruel daughter who couldn't handle competition. Brooke felt cold. Not angry, not shocked, just tired. Because she recognized the strategy. This was the same thing Vivian had done to her boyfriends. Isolate, influence, control the narrative first, just scaled up. Vivian never lied outright. That was the clever part. She just removed context, removed her texts, removed her behavior, removed everything that showed intention. What remained looked very different. Then Vivian escalated to social media. Carefully vague posts, quotes about betrayal, articles about narcissistic children, stories about mothers abandoned by ungrateful daughters, never naming Brooke, never needing to. The comments came fast. Support, sympathy, validation. Brooke made the mistake of reading them once. She didn't do it again. That night, she sat in her apartment and asked herself something she hadn't expected. Did I go too far? That thought scared her more than Vivian, because she had never wanted to become someone who set traps. She called Daniel. "I feel like I became her," she admitted quietly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he said something important. "Did you do it to control her, or to escape her?" Brooke knew the answer instantly. "Escape." "Then you didn't become her," Daniel said. That mattered, but it didn't make the fallout easier. Calls started coming, cousins asking questions, friends asking for her side. Some believed her, some didn't. Some listened politely but had already chosen Vivian. The hardest part wasn't the doubt. It was how reasonable Vivian sounded. Brooke realized something painful. Truth doesn't win because it's true. It wins because it makes sense. And Vivian knew how to make her version make sense. Then something unexpected happened. Not a defense, a crack. Her cousin Megan called, not to accuse, to ask a question. A simple one. If she was just being welcoming, why would finding out he was gay be humiliating? Brooke went quiet. Megan continued. That only makes sense if she thought she had a chance. That question started spreading quietly through the family. Not accusations, logic. People started asking Vivian small things, harmless things, clarifying things. And every answer she gave created new problems. Because to defend herself, she had to get close to the truth. And the closer she got, the worse she looked. Within weeks, something subtle shifted. The sympathy didn't disappear. It just stopped growing. Which, with someone like Vivian, was the first real loss. Daniel had predicted it. She can't maintain consistency forever, he said. People like that rely on momentum. And when it slows, things show. Around that time, Brooke met Connor. Not dramatically, not romantically. At a dinner party she almost didn't attend. She was tired, emotionally drained, considering canceling. She went anyway because she didn't want Vivian taking anything else from her. Connor wasn't impressive at first glance, which turned out to be exactly why he was different. Steady voice, measured reactions, listened more than he spoke. Corporate attorney, negotiations for a living, which meant he recognized manipulation faster than most. On their third date, Brooke told him everything. Not because she planned to, because she was too tired to hide it anymore. She expected hesitation, distance, concern. Instead, Connor asked one question. Do you still want a relationship with her? Brooke hadn't expected that. I don't know, she admitted. Connor nodded. Then the goal isn't fixing her. A pause. It's protecting you. That sentence hit differently than anything she had heard before. Not fight, not prove, not win. Protect. When she finally brought Connor to meet Vivian 6 months later, Brooke was more nervous than she expected. Not because she doubted Connor, because trauma doesn't disappear just because logic says you're safe. Vivian opened the door perfectly prepared. Hair flawless, dress calculated, smile activated. Brooke watched carefully, waiting for the old pattern. The hug attempt came. Connor stepped in, returned it politely, then stepped back naturally. Exactly 2 seconds. Not rejection, boundary. Vivian tried her usual conversational hooks, personal questions, testing warmth. Connor redirected every single one. Back to Brooke. Not obviously, effortlessly. Vivian mentioned Brooke's college major. Connor asked Brooke what she loved most about it. Vivian tried sustained eye contact. Connor complimented Brooke's earrings. Vivian tested flirtation tone. Connor brought the conversation back to shared plans. No confrontation, no drama, just closed doors. By the end of dinner, Vivian looked like someone trying to open a lock with the wrong key. For the first time in Brooke's adult life, nothing happened. No texts after, no strange behavior, no emotional hangover. Driving home, Brooke realized something strange. She wasn't relieved, she was confused, because she had expected pain. And when it didn't come, she didn't know what to do with the absence. Connor noticed. You okay? She thought for a moment, then said something honest. I think this is the first time she couldn't get inside. Connor nodded. That's because I wasn't trying to win her. A small pause. I was just protecting us. Brooke looked out the window, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was waiting for something to break. Connor didn't plan the proposal, at least not in the way Brooke expected. There was no dramatic setup, no hidden photographer, no perfect sunset moment. Just a normal Tuesday, which turned out to be exactly why it worked. They were sitting on the back porch of his apartment eating takeout from a small Thai place on South Boulevard. Brooke was talking about something minor from work when Connor suddenly went quiet. Not nervous, thinking. He reached into his jacket and placed a small velvet box next to her noodles like it had been sitting there all along. I've been carrying this for 3 weeks, he admitted. Brooke blinked. Connor smiled slightly. I kept waiting for the right moment. A small pause. Then I realized something. He looked at her. Every moment with you already feels like the right one. Brooke laughed before she even realized she was crying. He hadn't even opened the box yet. She said yes before he could finish the sentence. Later, Connor would admit something that made the moment feel even more real. I was actually really nervous, he told her. I just look calm when I'm terrified. That mattered more than a perfect speech ever could. When they told Vivian, her reaction landed exactly where Brooke expected. Not explosive, not dramatic, evaluating. Connor was acceptable. That was the word she used. Acceptable. She said they seemed young for such a permanent decision. Brooke was 28, Connor 32. But Vivian always preferred narratives where she remained the most experienced person in the room. Wedding planning became its own quiet negotiation. Not open conflict, pressure, suggestions about better venues, more photogenic flowers, a more impressive guest list. Connor handled it the same way he handled difficult clients. Polite, firm, final. He thanked her for every suggestion, then calmly reinforced decisions already made. Never confrontational, never flexible. Brooke noticed something important. Connor didn't try to defeat Vivian. He just never gave her space to operate. The wedding itself was beautiful. Warm October light, trees turning copper, Charlotte just beginning to cool from summer. Every chair filled with people who had watched Brooke survive something they never fully understood. Vivian behaved, almost perfectly, but Brooke could see the small tells. The champagne-colored dress that walked the thin line between appropriate and attention-seeking. The way she positioned herself in photos. The extra energy in her smile when cameras appeared. During her speech, Vivian surprised everyone. She spoke softly, proudly, about Brooke's strength, about welcoming Connor. For one brief minute, Brooke allowed herself a dangerous thought. Maybe she changed. Then came the bouquet toss. Vivian positioned herself directly in the center of the unmarried women, subtly edged forward, caught the bouquet cleanly, turned, winked at Connor's best man, announced loudly, "Looks like I'm next." The room laughed. Brooke did too, because now she understood something she hadn't before. Change wasn't coming. Understanding was. 2 years into the marriage, Lily was born. And something shifted in Vivian. Not transformation, redirection. She became obsessed with being a grandmother. Weekly visits, too many clothes, too many photos, too many social media captions about unconditional love. Brooke watched carefully. Old habits don't disappear. They adapt. Sometimes Brooke would still catch that familiar look when Vivian spoke to Connor. That small calculation. That old instinct. Then Lily would reach for Vivian, laugh, demand attention in the pure, uncomplicated way only children can. And every time, Vivian chose Lily. Not because she changed, because Lily offered something Brooke never could. Attention without competition. It wasn't healing, but it was manageable. Daniel and Kevin married the following spring in the mountains near Asheville. Simple ceremony, joyful, real. Brooke stood beside Daniel, remembering the strange plan that had changed everything. Vivian came as her guest. During cocktail hour, Brooke watched Vivian approach a group of Daniel's friends and start suggesting one of the tall ones might be perfect for her niece, apparently forgetting or ignoring that every man there was attending a gay wedding. When Brooke pointed it out, Vivian waved dismissively. People experiment. Brooke laughed so hard Connor had to come investigate. And in that moment, something fully settled inside her. Not forgiveness, not approval, acceptance. Her mother was still beautiful, still charismatic, still exhausting, still unable to see a world that didn't center her. And maybe that would never change. But something else had changed permanently. Brooke no longer needed her to. Standing there with Connor's arm around her waist, with Lily's photo lighting up her phone, with Daniel spinning Kevin across the dance floor, Brooke understood something that had taken 10 years to learn. Some people don't stop being storms. You just learn how to stop building your house in their path. Vivian would probably always be Vivian, but she was no longer the gravity of Brooke's life, just a weather pattern she had learned to dress appropriately for. And that was enough. Because the real victory was never changing her mother. It was realizing she didn't have to. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Sinner Stories for more real-life drama and emotional stories. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling us what you would have done in the main character's place, and subscribe to Sinner Stories so you never miss a new video.